Well, hello there, Survivor YouTubers. This is Kevin from Survivor Super Fun Time, and we just had Survivor Episode 3. This is a banger of an episode, although it was very disappointing for a lot of people out there, including myself, honestly. I will say my Survivor fantasy pool is basically out the window. Whatever I want to happen is definitely not going to happen based off of my preseason predictions. So if you had any kind of reliability in my picks before the season started, just abandon that right now and just make your own picks because you're going to be happier in the end. A lot of good stuff happened in episode 3, which I thought was really impressive from a few particular characters. Particularly Danny, I think, was one that was pretty hype. Matty G stood out this episode once again, so it's actually pretty impressive on his part that he was able to contribute in a pretty big way, which I thought was super awesome. And unfortunately, a few people got duped. But we'll dive into that in a hot second. But before we get into the video, I want to remind you to subscribe to this channel because we're going to be doing more content on Survivor 44 and Survivor of the Past, so you can watch some of this fun stuff and chat with me about it. And of course, let me know any videos you want me to do. But obviously, I'm just a big Survivor nerd and I want to talk about it with all of you. Also, be doing some giveaways so we can salivate your glands here. Like, for example, we have this Ratu buff. I'm not sure what the contest is going to be yet, but there will be one where if you're a subscriber and you're a part of the community, you can potentially win this. But for this video, we're going to be doing some of the ups and downs from the episode itself. Because there's some stuff I liked, some stuff I didn't like as much. And by the end, we'll have kind of a good conclusion as to what I felt about the episode and see what you think. Right away, I'm going to start off with a down. We have Carson talking about how essentially he just beat down Helen and strategically took her out and is trying to make Sarah feel really good about what happened. I mean, Sarah is really smart. Sarah's actually one of my favorite players in the game. That's kind of underrated, which is hard to say because honestly, I love this cast. It's like impossible not to like everyone on it, as long as they got screen time, which we had some people that didn't get some this time around. But I love Sarah. Sarah's great. She's not going for Carson's BS. So I'm curious, if Tika goes to Tribal Council again, how that's going to turn out. Especially because Sarah has like the vacuum advantage, where she can inherit everything that gets played at that Tribal Council. Right now, it's too early for that to be very meaningful. Not a good look for Carson, who I think is only going down, down, down from his preseason hype from the fan base. And Sarah possibly can kind of overtake him. But we'll see. Right now, I don't think that's the case. Jim and Carolyn are right at the top. Carson's slightly below, and then Sarah's right there for Tika. But we'll see how it shapes up. Ratu. I think Ratu definitely had an up this go around. Apparently, everyone on Ratu is totally on board with eating worms. And I thought that was something that people didn't like to do. In Fiji, with the Ratu tribe, they're all about the worms. Worm sandwiches is what they eat for lunch. For dinner, worm sandwiches. In addition to worm sandwiches, apparently they really, really like finding idols and then hiding those idols away and deceiving their castmates. This is an up right now from Matty G. That scallywag, he found a hidden immunity idol, didn't tell anyone about it. Then when he was walking around with dear sweet babyface Jamie, points her in the direction of where he hid a fake hidden immunity idol so she can find it and get totally blindsided by the fact that she doesn't have a real idol. She doesn't know because she has the real letter with the idol, but it's just a bunch of beads that Matty G made up. The problem with the new idols is there's so many of them that really are just beads. So it's so easy to replicate. But it's even worse now where CBS has actually put together fake idols that they give with the real one. So even if it wasn't one that was made up by Matty G, there's already a fake idol in the game at Ratu that I assume Brandon still has that he could have hidden as well. So poor sweet Jamie has a fake one. Matty G, who, it's a big week for him. He did a great job on one shoulder. He did really awesome in the challenge. He found a hidden immunity idol and faked out another tribe member. Big up for him. Kind of a down for Jamie, although I like that worm eating. Another big up for Kane. I had a good week with Kane. I love Kane. In the preseason, I assumed actually he'd probably be my favorite player, honestly, even though I didn't think he would win the game. I think he would get top 5. And he's one of the few players right now that I feel confident is actually going to go far like I thought they would in preseason. It was a good one for him. Nice to see him nerd out with D&D and anime and all that and really botch the Canadian national anthem. I think I knew it better, and I'm from Philadelphia, okay? But I like Kane a lot. I think it was a definite up for him. Lauren got to see a little bit more of her. Also an up for her. Then over the Soka tribe, the dear nerdtacular Soka tribe. Franny and Matty B, they continue their adorable behavior. Absolutely love it. Huge ups for them in that regard. Now, Danny had the biggest up in the episode, however, because he already has his idol. He found it in episode 2. But he decided what he was actually going to do with the fake idol. He was going to plant it so that someone could find it. And that someone was Matty B. Matty B was excited, lied about finding it to not only Danny, but also to Josh, finally came clean, and honestly, that changed the whole environment. It's a fake idol, Danny knows it, Danny played it perfectly, in that he basically confronted Matt in front of Josh as well, so that it could spread to everyone that he has an idol and get the target way off of Danny, if there was one at all. But instead, it actually ended up turning the target away from Maddie B entirely, onto Claire. And Maddie B doesn't even have a vote. So that's pretty impressive that Danny ended up engineering something that totally pushed all the attention away from Matt when it should have been obvious. Because not only does he not have a vote, he's also a twosome with Franny. But once that idol happened, that no one knows is fake except for Danny, Maddie B's votes not counting was essentially irrelevant because everyone was afraid of the idol. And the fact that he didn't have a vote for another tribal council had to have made him more appetizing for the rest of the tribe, because they're probably thinking we could just get him out next time he doesn't have a vote. So accidentally, it was a big W for Maddie B this past episode, even though he doesn't understand his idol's fake. Franny, she did an excellent job of maneuvering the situation. Claire, I don't know what the deal with Claire was. She must have been very desperate, but she went to Franny and said, let's vote out Matt B. Did you think that was going to work? Come on, Claire. I know you better than that. You're way too smart for that. You must have been extremely desperate. It seemed very obvious that Franny was never going to go against Maddie B. Although, like I've mentioned many times, Maddie B was kind of a strategic anchor for Franny until this fake idol popped up. So, I mean, I guess it was worth a shot, but it was probably never going to happen. And popping her head out for another bit of heroics, we have Heidi. I mean, Soka Tribe, unfortunately, they lost the immunity challenge, which was unintentionally hilarious. But since the Soka Tribe lost and had to go to Tribal Council, obviously there was a lot of scrambling. Is it going to be Claire, or is it going to be Josh, who apparently emerged as a character on the show? And unfortunately, Josh is one of the few castaways I didn't really care about leaving, mainly because Survivor didn't invest any time in him. So I said, okay, well, I'm not invested in him, so he can go. But when it came down to those two, I very much wanted Claire to stay. And then based off the votes, it looks like Claire knew for a fact that Heidi, who was in the middle, was not going to vote to keep her. So she went for a shot in the dark. It did not work out, as shots in the dark almost never do. And unfortunately, the queen of the Sandra bench, Claire, was voted out seemingly because her tribe said, you know, there's bonding that happens in challenges. And Claire sat out in all 3 immunity challenges in Survivor 44, which is a record. Claire has left a legacy that is astounding in many ways for a player that I think actually could have done really, really well. Claire didn't compete in any of the immunity challenges, and she never cast a single vote and was still voted out of the game. That has never been done before in Survivor history. You've had people leave the game that either didn't cast a vote or didn't compete in immunity challenges that had to go. Like, for example, Rupert Bonham in Blood vs. Water. He never competed in an immunity challenge, and he never cast a vote, but he wasn't voted out of the game. He lost in a duel. Claire went to Tribal Council and still got voted out and never cast a vote. In many ways, that's actually kind of impressive, right? So I think it's a very interesting legacy that Claire is leaving behind. I don't think it's good or bad. It's just kind of obscure. I think a definite down that we can't just gloss over is the fact that 3 women in a row have been kicked out of Survivor 44. There's been an incredible uptick in women being voted out pre-merge during this new series of season 41 to 44. The statistics have very much trended toward the idea that women are getting voted out because of strength. And it's creating a hole in the game that I think with this new era of Survivor, yes, it's great to have 3 different tribes, smaller group dynamics. It's creating an issue where it's probably not very fair. So I think if you go back to the 2-tribe format, maybe 8 and 8 or 10 to 10, I think it's more likely you're going to see them being willing to get rid of some guys in order to really just vote out whoever they think is a strategic threat, instead of focusing right away and going like, yeah, we have to win challenges. We're not voting out that guy, no matter what your problem is. So it's really the system that has to change more so than the players, because the players you can blame. You can look at them and you can say, hey, they're the ones that voted him out. You have 3 women and 3 men. Some of the women had to vote out their own, right? You could say that. That is true. But the system is what it is, and the system values men more than women, I think, initially early on in the game. Then once it starts to play itself out, everyone realizes the men are no more important than any woman or vice versa. But it is a hole in the game that I think they need to address. And anyway, I think everything's cyclical, right? I don't think you can do 3 tribes forever or 2. I think right now we're showing the value of having 2 tribes in bigger numbers and why it should make its way back. Now, I have 2 specific pieces of words about the immunity idols and the way they're set up in this game. First of all, I'll get the good out of the way, which is now that we know what happens with an idol when it is returned back into the game, I like it. So with rat 2, Brandon found the first one, he found a real one and the fake one, and it was in the bird cage. Now we know from Matty G's efforts, you find it randomly, you don't get a fake idol, and it's not in the cage. So it just gets re-hidden, and that's it. It's like old school. So that's good. I like that. If it got put in the cage again, and there's another fake idol, I think I would blow my top. Now, even though you just got your sugar, I have to give you a little bit of the vinegar, okay? So the fake idol thing is very interesting to some degree, right? Because you can confuse the people at the merge from the other tribe. But the problem is, when you just hand the castaways fake idols, it is indistinguishable for people to understand if they've been planted a fake idol. Like if a castaway is just really good at making a fake idol, let's say Joe Anglum, okay? He made a great fake idol, but that's just because he just happened to be that good. Now Survivor is handing fake idols that are legit authentic looking to castaways, and they're re-hiding them with the note. Like, where can a castaway figure out that theirs is fake? Is there any clue that they could ever figure it out? It feels like we're setting castaways up to not really have a fair shot. Like the whole point of finding one with a legit clue is being as authentic as humanly possible. Like there's going to be no hint that these are fake. And I don't think that's really fair. I think you're really setting an ugly precedent. I mean, objectively, from an entertainment standpoint, it's going to be interesting. But if I was playing the game and I got voted out with a fake idol like that, I would say, what the? And I would just feel duped, and I would feel so annoyed. And honestly, I'd probably be bitter toward the show because it's just not very fair. I think it's a slippery slope. So hopefully Survivor can kind of rein that in. But I will say that the cage thing has actually worked out pretty well. It's just the fake idol, bring it back. Maybe if you gave them materials for fake idol, I'd be on board. Overall, I have to give the episode a big thumbs up because Survivor 44 is delivering right now. I don't love the editing choices. I'm still not totally on board with the idea that something happened and editors don't tell us about it until later on. For example, we saw Jamie find the idol. We're like, oh, wow, Jamie just stumbled on the idol. And then we find out, 20 seconds later, Matty G's like, oh, no, I found it a couple days ago. And then the editors show us him finding it. So I don't know if I love that, but whatever. It's a work in progress. Maybe I'll adapt. But overall, thumbs up in the episode. Thought it was really good. Next week, I pray to God they do a switch where they're going to take the 3 tribes and combine them down to 2. I think that would really help the game, and I really hope that's what happens. But that's going to do with this video. What did you think of the episode? What was your favorite moment? Is it interesting that 3 women have been voted out altogether? Or do you think purely they all deserved it? I don't know. Let me know down below in the comment section. I would love to talk to you more about it. And remember, hit the subscribe button because we have more Survivor 44 content coming to you this season. In addition to, maybe I'll be hitting up some of the parties that are going to be going on, some of the viewing parties, and I'll show off some of my collection because I've become a Survivor nerdy buff collector, which is interesting at the very least. But I would love to share some of that stuff with you and, of course, talk to you about anything out there. But that's going to do it. You have an amazing day, everyone. And remember, I have spoken.